Hello my friends, me NightGeek here. Finally, a proper Windows 98 computer. I've been building failed 98 computers since forever, but this time I will make it work. I will see this through, using all of these right here. And this time I won't have any issues. Let's start the show, and the star of the show is this gorgeous motherboard. To say that I've been looking for such a kit days without end would be an understatement. I'm trying to build this computer for ages, but now it's here, it's mine, and it has a 4000 MHz Pentium 2? Wait a second, I've acquired this as a Pentium 3 at 500 MHz. Oh no!
No, snap out of it, geek. You have a wonderful slot 1 motherboard.
Yeah, after all, this is a board that supports both Pentium 2 and Pentium 3, right? I could always upgrade to something bigger if needed. Okay, so a slot 1 motherboard built by Lucky Star, more precisely the 6ABX2V model. The Intel 440BX chipset should be excellent for Windows 98 in terms of support and stability, at least I hope so. The motherboard has everything I need for late 90s computing. It supports maximum 768 SDR RAM, AGP1X 3.3 volts, 2 IDE interfaces, 5 32-bit PCAs and 2 16-bit ISA slots. The ISA slots are excellent if you are planning to use MS-DOS, especially for MS-DOS compatibility with sound cards. On the back we have 2 USB 1 ports. Very important, USBs are always useful, be it peripherals, external hard drives or other equipment that needs USB power. The capacitors on the board look good, and someone assured me that Lucky were a good and reliable company, so I'm confident about this board. The CPU is a Pentium 2 Deschutes clocked at 400 MHz with 100 MHz FSB, the maximum supported by the motherboard, and 512 KB of level 2 cache stuck on the slot. I'll be using 64 MB of SDR memory clocked at 100 MHz. I could add more if things don't look right. I'll be using an Intel i740 dedicated video card. Yeah, that's right, the first dedicated video card that Intel has ever produced. Oh boy, I'm in for some big shocks, right? I've never used this card until now, and I can say that I'm really excited to give it a spin. One of the worst Sound Blaster 16 cards, I have here the Vibra 16XV, which lacks the OPL3 support of the Sound Blaster 16, and instead it has nothing. This card just outputs sounds. I hope, we'll see. Transferring data to such an old system poses some challenges. That's why this ISA Ethernet adapter should be my best friend while installing and testing this computer. I hope the OS has drivers for it. I really don't want to scavenge for drivers in the dark corners of the internet. I could use a VPN, but no VPN company offered me a sponsorship deal until now, so... Being period correct is hard, but I recently found a drive to achieve that. This hard drive. Get it? Hard and drive because it's hard to find a drive? Well, 3.2 GB of Western Digital caviar goodness, model 13200, which spins at 5400 rotations per minute and has 512 KB of cache. By the way, most of the components that you are seeing here were bought from the same guy, and each and one of them look amazing. No dust, no nothing, it's like they are brand new. And then a half white, half yellow case, retrofitted with a modern power supply in order to avoid unpleasant situations, and a DVD optical drive for installing stuff, mainly games, quick and easy. Nothing special during the build process, the motherboard fits like a glove in this case, all you need is for the 6 standoffs to be in the correct position. And because I'm never using backplates, the operation was quick and easy. The hard drive, that's it, great. The quote-unquote video card looks like it belongs here, and it has the same PCB color as the motherboard, absolutely fantastic. The two ISA cards fit nice together, as long as the network adapter is above the sound card, and you add the sound card first. This is the build. It looks, well, it definitely looks, that's for sure. But can it run post? Let's see. Wow, this computer doesn't run, it flies, listen to this. Anyway, the computer posts from the first try. The BIOS has plenty of options which I'll not cover right now, but the best surprise is that the hard drive has Windows 98 already installed. And that's not all. All the drivers were installed also, and they seem to be working. Also, this seems like a clean install of the operating system. Only Diamond Tools and Warcraft 2 are installed. The hard drive has 3.2 GB, of which 250 MB are free on the C partition and 600 MB on the other one. I'll be needing to do some housekeeping. If it's here, I'll be starting Warcraft 2 to see if it works. It works. We have video, we have sound, let's move on. And let's install all the other stuff that I'll be using. And in the meantime, I'll be giving you my honest thoughts about using this computer. But before that, I've tried cleaning the fan. Still loud, but noticeably quieter than before. Installing software from the CD was faster than I expected. Winamp was installed in a pinch, no freezes, no nothing. The same for Riva Tuner, and here we can see that the CPU maxes out at 100%. The 64 MB of RAM are used in their entirety, and we also have some megabytes used by the swap file. The differences in performance when the swap file is used, compared to using only the RAM, are huge, mainly because the hard drive is really slow. Extracting an archive has the same results. 100% CPU utilization, all 64 MB of RAM are maxed out. Swapping kicks in. I'm not surprised, obviously. I've tried extracting a big archive and the computer was really trying its best. 64 MB swap file. Yeah. In the end, it did not work. It gave me an error. Installing games was interesting. First, Blizzard are known for their games being optimized, but not their installers. No sir, the installer is more demanding than the game. Just look at both StarCraft and Warcraft 3's installer. But if the installer doesn't freeze the system and the games are installed, it's all that you need. You won't be using such a computer for multitasking. Done. Glorious. But let's talk about disk space. I understand now why many games gave you the option for partial installation. This space was not a commodity back then. But what about the speed? This benchmark shows a result of 12 MB per second, both write and read. Copying a file from the same hard drive with Total Commander starts promising, with around 4 MB transfer rate, but it soon drops to 1 MB and even to hundreds of kilobytes. Copying a file from this hard drive to a way faster one, we have around 3 MB of read speed, far from the 12 MB shown by the benchmark. And because we're at copying related stuff, the CPU, RAM and swap file max out when copying files. Yeah, initiate the copying process and go walk the dog. What amazes me about the sound card is that the drivers were installed by default by the OS, which is such a huge thing. I had a lot of issues with Sound Blaster cards and drivers in Windows 98. Then, the sound volume. This card pushes decibels like they're nothing. Listen to a comparison between this and the modern integrated sound card.
Winamp. It really whips the llama's ass. Winamp. It really whips the llama's ass.
Yeah, this is a sound card released 30 years ago. And finally, there is little to no background noise when outputting the sound to my modern PC for recording. All Sound Blasters that I've used until now, be it Live, ODG, ODG SE, ODG4, have really bad static sound, and I have to apply noise reduction filters for it to sound good. But not for this one, the sound is way clearer. The Intel i740 is a video card. Released in 1998, it has 8 MB of SDR memory, clocked at 100 MHz with a bus of 64-bit, for a total of 800 MB memory bandwidth. The GPU is clocked at 66 MHz, it has 2 pixel pipelines, and it supports DirectX 5. Yikes. Comparing it to video cards from 1998, we have this. Not too bad, compared to the ATI card, I guess. I don't know, specs might be deceiving. Let's test its performance. In 3D Mark 99 we have 3000 points. I'm surprised that both games run as good as they run. Look at this. The first game has around 20 plus FPS and the second one around 20. Not bad. As a reference, a GeForce 2MX 400 had 6100 points using an Athlon 64. 3D Mark 2000 does not run that well. Almost 700 points here. And the GeForce 2MX 400 had 3400 with the same Athlon 64. But let's try some games, shall we? We begin with something more lightweight, Heroes 2. Released in 1996, this game needed an Intel 486, 60 MB of RAM, 40 MB of hard drive space, and SVGA graphics. The game looks, sounds and runs amazing, nothing to complain here. The music does not work when selecting CD and it also freezes. I think that I need to connect the optical drive to something on the motherboard, I don't know. The CPU does not stay at 100% when playing this game, and from the 64 MB of system memory, only 6 MB remain unused. Released in 1999, Heroes 3 is a great successor to its little brother. The game is smooth, no issues with the textures, the sounds, no freezes, nothing. This game uses 100% of the CPU, it uses most of the system memory, and we also have 6 MB used from the swap file. Now let's see some awesome Blizzard quality level cinematics. Oh, we can't, we did not install the entire game due to the hard drive lacking space. Well, the game then. This is the 1.0 version, so the very first version of the game, and I'm very excited to finish it like this. The almighty Amazon, let's go. Diablo 2 runs only at 640x480 resolution, and it's locked at 25 FPS. The frame rate is constant 25, but it has a lot of freezes. It might be because the game loads some assets from the CD, because the CD starts spinning from time to time, or because it uses the swap file. As you can see, the game uses 100% of the CPU, 100% of the RAM, and almost 30 MB from the swap file. Warcraft 3 was released in 2002, 4 years after the video card, and the game runs surprisingly well. Look at this. Of course we have around 10 FPS and constant freezes, but this is an Intel i740 with 8 MB of video memory. I'm impressed that it runs at all. I'm running at 640x480 16-bit, low settings, shadows on. Okay, all seemed well, but after trying to run Quake 1, my scrapped metal friend right here decided it's time to go. I've tried for 30 minutes in vain. I can't open my computer, I can't access partitions, it's dead, Jim. I can't believe I made a Star Trek reference. I'm sorry, master, forgive me, you will? What now? I'm glad you've asked. I've added 128 MB of RAM for a total of 192 MB, this should do the trick. I've changed the video card to an ATI Rage Fury released in 1999, which should perform way better. And finally, an 80 GB hard drive that spins at 7200 RPMs. I wanted to use a smaller one, but I don't have anything sitting around. All smaller drives are in other computers. I've also changed the CPU fan to a smaller and way quieter one. Listen to this. Everything worked perfectly after installing the new components, and the Windows install was flawless and fast, except for system integrity checks and hard drive formatting. Everything was installed and configured by default. Excellent. I'm going to copy some files from the older hard drive, which is not dead after all. This time the system feels way snappier when copying files. I can even do multitasking. Look! The new hard drive has double the score of the previous one. Copying files is faster, but the system resources are still used at 100% capacity, both CPU and RAM. I'm not going to bother you with any other details. This hard drive is faster, and the added RAM really makes the difference. And now the fun part, ATI drivers on Windows 98, yummy. However, after finding the correct drivers for the video card, thanks Phil, all worked like a charm. Of course we have to give all the 1000 restarts, insert the Windows 98 install disk 10 times, but it's okay, time passes different in the 90s. Look at this, wonderful, Rage Fury Pro, Direct3D acceleration enabled, AGP texture acceleration enabled. But we can't go on without one of the most underrated things about Windows 98, themes. The Science theme is epic, colors, the icons, the sounds. And now we're ready for gaming. The video card drivers have some interesting options, but I won't be covering them right now. I'm just disabling vertical sync. Quake 1 was released in 1996 and it runs in software mode. The CPU does the heavy lifting. I'm using 800x600 and this Pentium 2 does a great job. The game session was smooth sailing. I want to take a moment and say that this is the first time I've changed the resolution in Quake without the computer crashing. On each Windows 98 computer I had until now, changing the resolution resulted in a complete computer freeze. Quake runs great, and as expected, it does not use a lot of system memory, maybe around 8-10 megabytes. The next game is Viper Racing, another game that I could not run on newer hardware, but here we are, the game works. I'm using 800x600 maximum settings. It was released in 1998, and although I've played only 30 minutes, the game seems to be a keeper. First, it looks amazing, even on my 21-inch LCD. It helps that I'm using 800x600, half the maximum supported by the LCD, 1600x1200. But still, it has minimal jaggies, it's like using anti-aliasing. The car handling, although a little weird at first, because the cars tend to oversteer a lot, you'll get used to it. And then you'll have both normal driving and drifting at the same time. Also, I really love that the car does not feel heavy or stiff. The entire thing feels fluid, smooth, a little bit mushy. I like it. The cars also have damage models. You can damage the car pretty bad, but after reset it gets repaired somehow. The performance, as you can see, is stellar, 50 FPS most of the time, with little drops here and there. I've also used 1024x768 and I had similar FPS. The same thing can be said when using anti-aliasing, although I don't really see any differences in visual quality. Viper Racing uses around 10-15 megabytes of system memory and it uses the entire CPU. The requirements are Pentium 2 at 233 MHz recommended, 32 megabytes of system memory minimum, and the 3DFX Voodoo. Another racing game released in 1998, Test Drive 5 is a realistic game with cars. Yeah, Need for Speed 2 all over again. I have between 30-50 FPS when playing at 800x600 16-bit, and the game does not feel as smooth to play as Viper Racing. There are other issues also, like crashes when trying to change the resolution, car shadow flickers, and this really weird lightning glowing stuff displayed on the rear window of the car that looks strange when steering the car. The car moves, the glow stays. But don't sleep on this game. It has amazing cars, it has traffic, police, nice maps. It's Test Drive after all, it has pedigree. The game uses maybe 20-30 megabytes of system memory and the requirements are as follows. Pentium 200 MHz recommended, 64 megabytes of system memory recommended, and 3DFX Voodoo 4 megabytes video card minimum required. By the way, I've restarted the PC after each game to reset the resources usage. As expected, Heroes 3 looks and feels amazing. Nothing to say here. The battles are smooth and why I am fighting this fight beats me. I will be dead in no time. Let's move to more demanding games, in this case Unreal Tournament. Released in 1999, it recommends a Pentium 2 at 266 MHz, 64 MB of RAM and a minimum of 8 MB video card, DirectX 7 compatible. I am playing at 800x600 16-bit high settings. What do you guys think of the performance? ATI cards before Radeon are looked upon as laughable. Well, who's laughing now? 30 FPS during the heat of the battle with 2-3 bots. It's quite good, right? I did not encounter any freezes, all things were smooth, and 30 FPS does not feel as low as it seems. In the end, Unreal Tournament runs great, but it also uses a hefty amount of RAM, around 100 MB. Yeah, far from the recommended 64 MB. Diablo 2 also runs great, and this time there were no freezes, at least until entering Burial Grounds, but even after the game loaded this area, I still had some hiccups from time to time, but nothing too bothersome. I have these even on way better computers, it's just a game engine thing. Diablo 2 uses all the CPU and around 60 MB of system memory. The game is not swapping, that's why we don't have those constant freezes, like before. I'm running Warcraft 3 at 800x600 low settings and the frame rate is similar to the Intel card, only that now I don't have freezes. But let me tell you, this is not a card for Warcraft 3, there's no way around it, even lowering the resolution had little to no effect, maybe 2-3 FPS extra. I've played this game for the first time on an Athlon XP and GeForce 2 MX 400, and even on those specifications I had low frame rate and periodic freezes, when having bigger armies. As you can see, the game uses the entire system memory, and it also uses 8 MB from the swap file. Well, Warcraft 3 was a nice experiment, but I won't be playing it on this system. The same can be said about Unreal Tournament. No sir, this computer is excellent for those 96-98 games, fast, compatible and nostalgic. Just one more thing, this video card can decode MPEG 2, taking the load from the CPU. I'm not a connoisseur, but one thing is clear. When looking at the same movie, we can see that the CPU stays at 50% when using hardware acceleration and 75% when using just the CPU. I did not do any quality comparisons or frame drops checks. I'm sorry. I'm sure there are a lot of things I haven't covered, especially motherboard and CPU related. BIOS, jumpers, MS-DOS, lower speeds, no cache and others. But this for another time. Maybe a second part with MS-DOS compatibility, performance and related. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, use real retro and be nostalgic.